Alright, the movie The Accountant. I actually enjoy it, even though it has a lot of things in it that really make no sense. Hello there, namaste. So, The Accountant, Christian Wolff, Ben Affleck, is a mathematics savant with more affinity for numbers than people. Using a small-town CPA office as a cover, he makes his living as a freelance accountant for dangerous criminal organizations. With a Treasury agent, J.K. Simmons, hot on his heels, Christian takes on a state-of-the-art robotics company as a legitimate client. As Wolff gets closer to the truth about a discrepancy that involves millions of dollars, the body counts start to rise. I enjoy this film because Ben Affleck plays a high-functioning autistic, and he kind of has the range for it, because you don't need much. As long as you become more of a brick wall, it becomes easier. He doesn't need to do a lot of acting, you just become more wooden. You don't need to show a lot of emotion, you go away from it, but there is a balance to it, because you have to come across as slow at times and uncomfortable at times, and he does a decent job of it. I do really wish this story was more about the underworld dynamics of being a business accountant for, well, the underworld, trying to clean up their books and find where all their dirty money disappeared to, who's robbing these criminals. But it does go a different avenue where he's already been doing that for a while. You learn bits and pieces of how he got into it. You learn bits and pieces of his past, his brother, his father, his mother. The fact that they say J.K. Simmons, the Treasury agent who's on the hunt for Christian Wolff, makes no sense because he knows everything about him. I don't understand as to why he's looking for him, except for the fact that he let him go at one point. It's just, there's a lot that's unknown. You don't close the books on people who are in prison. You could easily access them. I mean, they kept saying, oh, it's a closed book. Everything's false. His father's name, which was told Colonel something something, it's not his real name. Everything is kind of black bag. But Ben Affleck is basically asked to do a task. He ends up solving the books for this huge advanced prosthetic company, and it turns out that they were cooking their books in the beginning. Someone was skimming from the top. And then people start dying, like it said, because someone's trying to cover it up by taking out everyone at the top. Anna Kendrick is basically there as a bubbly female, which I guess she always plays that role. I can't really think of a film where she's not playing that role. Even in the film with the serial killer Ryan Reynolds and voices, she's still playing the same role. But as we're shown Ben Affleck's life being a regular accountant, primarily, we don't see the underworld aspect, we just see that in pictures that the Treasury agent has. We're introduced to Jon Bernthal's character, Braxton, which is actually my nephew's name. I didn't even catch that the first time I watched this. But one thing I gotta say, I love Jon Bernthal as an actor. I mean, the first time he was introduced to me in The Walking Dead, that's season 1, I believe, one of the best parts about it, even though he was kind of the bad guy, but he was literally the one who saw the future before anyone else, literally telling Rick how things were going to play out in the future. I feel like he's a great actor. He has range. He's always able to portray himself. He can be likable. He can be tough. He can be sensitive. He can be everything. And he kind of gets all that right here because apparently him and Ben Affleck have a history. The funny thing is here he's taking out contracts to either kill people or have people correct their ways because he's a contract hitter, and he ends up being hired by the man who's trying to cover up everything at the advanced prosthetics location that Ben Affleck happens to be figuring out all the books for. And I kind of am okay with it because it's like, coincidence? I think not.
Coincidence? I think not.
I just had to say that because I said a coincidence. But it's like, coincidence, of course. What are the likelihoods of this? And, of course, Jon Bernthal's character says that, and Ben Affleck, of course, being autistic, is trying to break it down mathematically, and he's just... Dude, I'm not being serious. I'm just saying it. It's a rhetorical question. But that's the thing. When you see Ben Affleck on Jon Bernthal, I wish we got more of a story that route. I'm kind of hoping that the sequel gives us more of that, because I want to see more of their dynamic. You see it for a quick second, and then it's gone. I get a bit of humor out of seeing Ben Affleck ignore Anna Kendrick because she's over bubbly and being over friendly. Jon Bernthal's being tough with his crew as his crew is basically dying around him because Ben Affleck is targeting them all because he's targeting Ben Affleck. J.K. Simmons' character, sure, I like his arc, but at the same time, it serves no real purpose because, well, he isn't needed for anything. Everything that's leaked by the British Voice, they could easily do it any which way. So I just felt that was unnecessary. I really did. The whole aspect where Ben Affleck's in prison and no one knows who he is just seems a little far-fetched. When did he get out? They kind of say it where he escaped from prison after he found out that someone was killed. All of that is touch and go, but it's like, when did he get involved in this accountant business then? It's only been 10 years when he was sent to prison. He learned everything about being an accountant in prison, I guess. He was loaned out to agencies, then he escaped and became the accountant for all the criminals in the world. And for how long did it take him to do all that? How long was he the government's accountant? How long was he in prison before he became the accountant? How long did he learn under this guy before he escaped to kill these people? I need a roadmap here because I'm just like how many accountants are there? There's like 20 people that need to do all this work. Yes, he does the work of like 5 people, they say. But at the same time, I'm like, but there aren't a multitude of him. He still has to develop connections. And last but not least is, of course, the British Voice. I didn't care for that. Sure, they're trying to show that those with, like, I believe that everyone's on some kind of spectrum. There are those that are incredibly high functioning. There are those that are moderately high functioning. There are those that are, sometimes you're just unsure because the way they act, the way they talk. I'm sure people have thought that about me. And then there are those who just get further down. Of course, the Voice, the one who gives them all his missions, the one who gives them everything, is one who's so far down on the spectrum, you would use the word retarded for her. But no, she's an absolute genius. She can hack almost anything. She can figure out all the information, send him all the pictures he needs. So it just, that was where I felt it leaped a little too far. I like the fact that his home base is a place that supports people with his mentality, but making it just was a little too far-fetched. It was a little too far-fetched. I mean, it seems cute and innocent and everything, but I'm like, I'm not sure that works there. I mean, what would have made sense to me is if she was laying down on the bed, unconscious, unmoving, and they had hooked her brain into a computer. Sure, that would go into the realms of fantasy, but at the same time, that would make more sense to me than what they did. What they did just like, what? No, she's typing on a keyboard, but she doesn't have the ability to actually get her hand down to type. It made no sense. It made no sense. It just string her up to the computer. Even if they just had it to where she wore a headband that tapped into the computer. A little more believable than her like this being the fastest typer in the world. Thank y'all for watching. I enjoy the film. I enjoy the action, mainly because Jon Bernthal being the younger brother, who's kind of the older brother, it just seems, and you could see all the emotion. You don't need Ben Affleck to show emotion because he's the high-functioning autistic. He looks away, he gives eye contact here and there, and with those slight eye contacts, you do see emotion, which does show acting range, but it's all on Jon Bernthal to portray everything. I believe he's a great actor. Thank y'all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.
You guys got a video? It's so bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait, like that.